Hello everyone, welcome to 3DDesignAcademy.com. In this lesson, we will continue with part 110 of the Lamborghini Aventador project. Okay, so continuing on from the previous lesson, I am going to be working on the headlamp. While I was doing a little bit of exploration on my own, I did notice something that probably needs to be fixed, and that is, as you can see over here, you'll see that this the turn signal and this angle matches exactly. So if you see this over here, so you'll see that the hexagon shape is a little bit different from what I thought it was. So I thought this had a little weird angle that's a little bit more, I should say, a little bit leaning. So I thought the proportion was a little bit weird too. And I think now I know why. So let me show you guys what I mean. So first of all, I'm going to try to match the angle over. I'm going to try to build some of the surfaces over here so that we can fill the hole. So if you see this picture over here, so you'll see that there's a little bit of thin black piece next to the this light over here. So I'm going to put that in. But before I do that, I do think that this is supposed to sort of fan out. So let me just do that first. So let's go ahead and I'm going to grab the stretch tool over here like this. And I'm just going to make sure that it's got a little bit of angle so that it's, you can actually see it from this view. So I'm just going to do that. And I'm going to do a copy paste over here. Just going to copy and paste it. Put it over here. And I'm just going to do a rail also. Okay, so I'm just going to do a rail this way. This original, I'm going to just get rid of like this. Now, and you need a flat over here, so let's put that in. So let's grab a draft tool. Well, actually, let's just do a rail. So I'm just going to create a flat like this, and let's do a rail over here, and I'm going to do a rail over here like that. Okay, so I think the thickness is a little bit too much. So I'm just going to grab the merge tool, not the merge tool, I'm sorry, I'm going to grab the extend tool like this, and I'm going to see if that's good. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good thickness over here, and you'll see that the angle doesn't match up over along with the turn signal, which means I do have to make a little adjustment. So what I'm going to do is, I think the angle of this is pretty good. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this piece over here like that. And I'm just going to, let's see, just going to push it over here like that. And I'm going to use this curve. I don't know why there's two curves over here. So let's delete one. I'm going to use this curve. Oh, move the pivot here. I'm going to use it to create the surface that will act as a base for this piece over here. So let's go ahead and redevelop this one. So I do think that it needs to be a little bit longer. So let's do that first. So I'm just going to grab this curve over here. I'm just going to extend it like this. Now I'm going to be using the same dimensions. So I just need to project it. And I'm just going to project over here using this one and this one like this. And I'm going to project it from Y like this. And I am going to project this one also. Well, this surface can stay. So I'm just going to keep that. So I'm going to say on trim over here like this. And I'm just going to intersect this one. Oh, no, that's not what I was planning to do. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move this piece over here like this. I think the thickness can probably stay the same. So I'm just going to move it over here. And for this one, I think, well, let's see. I'm just going to project it from the side like this. Oh, it is already projected. So that can be gone. And let's get rid of this one also. Let's go ahead and make this invisible. So this is going to be a new angle for this piece. Hopefully it's not too big because I don't want to make any more change than this. Okay, so now that's done. I'm going to be doing the same thing on the other side. So let's duplicate mirror. When I say other side, I'm talking with the lower. So I'm just going to do this, and hopefully it works. I don't know, because it's at a bit of an angle. I'm really hoping that it works, and looks like it does. Okay, so that's good. And I'm just going to duplicate this over to the other side. However, I do need to be careful because there is a bit of an angle. So what I'm going to do is, well, let's, first of all, I'm going to duplicate a mirror, and I'm going to say XZ. I'm just going to snap it over here though. Oops. Did I? Oh, okay. So I'm just going to move the pivot here. I'm going to move it over here like this. And I'm going to grab the whole thing, and I'm just going to rotate this thing so that it matches over here. So I'm just going to check the angle. So let's take a look. This one should be gone. This one, I'm going to just move it over here, so that shouldn't really matter. Let's just check the whole thing. Okay, so this one. Okay, so that looks good. I think this one just needs to be translated over to this side, and that should fit right over here. So that's good. And this one can be gone. Okay, so that's good. So the only thing I need to do is just rotate this about the Z axis so that the angle matches. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, well, actually drag a curve over here, and I'm going to drag a curve over here like this. Just needs to be, I just need to check the angle so it doesn't, you don't have to make it super long. So I'm just going to check the angle. I'm going to angle to 2903. So let's go ahead and rotate the top one first. So I'm going to say, well, let's rotate it first to see how it rotates. Okay, so it's a negative 29.03. That should match. And I'm going to be doing the same thing over here. Negative 29.03. And that should match up nicely as well. Okay, so let's just check the shape first, because I just want to make sure. Okay, so I think this one, let's cover it up first. So I'm going to use the Planar Tool to cover it like this. Well, actually, that doesn't look too bad. However, I do think that it needs to be a little bit wider. So let's go ahead and do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to extend this piece over here, maybe a couple mils like this, and do the same thing over here, 2 mils. And I'm just going to drag this one over here like that. And that actually looks pretty close. I think the angle is a little bit different. I do think that the one that I built has a little bit more lean, but it could also be due to the thickness of this. So maybe I'll just extend this 1 more mil. Okay, so I'm just going to grab these two, and I'm going to say extend 1 more mil. And let's go ahead and grab these ones, these surfaces over here like this. And I think it is actually getting pretty close to what how it shows over here. So let's go ahead. All right, so it is quite a bit wider. However, proportionally, I do think that it's actually a decent fit. So first of all, let me just hide these surfaces over here. Well, actually, you know what? Let's just delete it. How long is this thing? Let me just check that first. Okay, so it's about 10, actually it's about 20 mils. So I think that's probably the only dimension I need to know. Everything else I'm going to be using offset, so that should not matter that much. Okay, it does look a little bit, I do feel like it's leaning a little bit too much. So if that's the case, I might have to move this a little bit this way. When I say move, I think I'm going to just correct the whole thing. Let me just check the top view, or not the top view, front view. I'm going to go, let's see, let's just do a check. Okay, so let's check against this one. They're supposed to be in line with the angle over here. And I feel like, I think I might have leaned it a little bit too much. at least the angle of this feature over here, it does seems like it's a little bit off. So I think I'm going to just check it against this one also. Yeah, I think I'm going to stand it up a little bit. Now this is probably a better front view. Let's just check. So according to this one, I think it's pretty close. However, I don't like the proportion of this thing over here. So I wonder if I should correct that a little bit. Now it is the outside one. It looks a little bit wide. I wonder if I should make it a little bit narrow. Now, in order to change the angle of this, what I could do is I can make this a little bit more vertical so that everything fits a little bit better. So let's try that a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy and paste this curve just in case I need to go back to this one. And I'm also going to copy, well, basically delete the construction history on this one so that in case I need it. Well, let's do this. I'm just going to copy and paste. I'm going to delete the construction history and let's put in a high layer. Actually, before I do that, I'm just going to grab it as a group like this so that I can group it. And let's put in the high layer, and that's good over there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make this a little bit more vertical. So let's grab this curve. I'm going to be grabbing this one like this, and I'm just going to make it a little bit more vertical so it doesn't look a little too stood up. Okay, so let's do that. And I'm just going to make sure for the front that it doesn't look too weird. So I can probably just make it stood up as much as that angle. Probably not more than that. And if I do that, I probably need to move this out a little bit outward too. Let's try this one first. Okay, so the history is already there. So not a lot of changes that I need to make. However, I do need to push this one over here, and this one will need to be duplicated. Let's delete this one as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to edit duplicate mirror, and I'm going to mirror in XY. Let's, where did it go? Okay, so it's located down over here. So I'm just going to move the pivot there, and I'm going to snap the surface over here. Okay, so that's good. I'm going to move this one over here, and I might even make this a little bit shorter. So let's go ahead and grab both edges. I'm going to say -1 like that. That's good. And now I'm just going to copy and paste over here. I'm going to move the pivot here. And for this one, I'm going to say duplicate mirror, and I'm just going to basically duplicate about the XZ plane. I'm going to move it over here, and the rotation should be the same. I'm going to say 29.03. That works. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. -29.03. Or you can just duplicate it and you can just mirror it in XY plane. Okay, so let's check it against the previous one. I do think that the proportion is a little bit better. I still think that it's a little bit leaning too much. So let's check. So I'm going to just grab the planar tool so that we can actually plug out the surface. Where is there two? Let me just delete one of them. Okay, so that's good. And let's grab the planar tool. I'm going to click here, 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 here. Where is there a duplicate? All right, so let me just delete that, and I'm going to just do the planar tool again. It's going to 1 2 3 4 5 6, and it won't even let me create one. Okay, so if that's the case, let's just do skin, and I'm going to extend either side, and I'm just going to project from the front. Oh. What do you know? I think I might have made a little mistake. So this one, it should be vertical, but because of the curve that was deleted, I think it's actually not. Which means that this actually needs an angle like this. Wait, let's just check. Okay, so these planes should be the same. So I'm just going to do a skin between them. So that should be good. And no, this should not be projected in Y. I actually need to extend this one over here and intersect it against this one. Okay, so I think the spot might have been a little bit off. So let's do this. And I'm going to, yeah, that was definitely off. So let me just trim this one. And I'm going to trim this one. Okay, so that looks a little bit closer. So let's try this out. So I'm just going to, first of all, just going to extend this one. And well, I guess we can just, you know what, let's just do it again. Actually, you know what, I can just probably trim it. So I can just intersect this one against this one. I'm going to say trim. I'm going to trim over here. I'm going to trim this one over here. And let's just check the proportions a little bit. Okay, so a little bit closer than before. I still think that it's a little bit too... something seems a little bit off. I do feel like it needs to become a little bit more vertical. But at the same time, it looks a little bit better than this one. And maybe it has to do with the width too. So I'm going to just extend this back again. So I'm just going to grab this one. I'm going to grab this one. I'm going to say -1. And let's see what happens if I snap these surfaces over here to this one and see how the proportions compare. That actually doesn't look too bad. Okay. So instead of, I would say that's good enough. And I think I'm going to move on. However, I do want to check the length though, to make sure that they're about the same. So let's just check the length over here like this. Looks like it's about 12 mils. I'm going to be doing the same thing. If I can just snap it over here. Okay, so it's about 12 mils too. So at least the distance between this one and this one is pretty close. So I'm going to say this is a pass. And I think I'm just going to build the surfaces according to this dimension. So let's go ahead and build it out. Okay, so now the basic shape is done. So let's go ahead and do a little offset. So I'm just going to grab these 6 over here like this, including that one and this one. I'm just going to offset them. So let's grab offset. It's going to be 1 mil. Let's just make sure the direction is good. Okay, so it looks like it needs to go here. Okay, so that's good. And now what I'm going to do is I do need to, it does need a little thickness. So it needs to protruding out over here. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm just going to grab these ones like this. What I want to pick. Oh, they might be, oh, okay. So looks like it just needs to be untrimmed. So I'm just going to grab this one. And this one like this. And let's go ahead. I know it looks a little bit messy, but well, let's just go ahead and extend these like this. I'm going to grab this one and this one. Let's extend these to 20 mils so that I know where the target is. And I'm just going to put a skin between them so that it can act as a wall. And I'm just going to delete the rest of the curved surfaces over here. Okay, and now I'm just going to extend both edges like this. One over here, one over here. And let's go ahead and do some trimming. So I'm going to just use intersect. So both sides like this. This one over here. And lastly, this one over here. And let's go ahead and intersect this with the plane at the front. And let's go ahead and trim. So I'm just going to trim this piece over here, trim this one. Now, the carbon surface is a little bit short here, but that's okay. I can just use extend. And let's go ahead and do the same thing all the way around. Trim over here, trim over here, and I'm going to trim over here. Okay, that looks good. Let's go ahead and delete the construction history and see how that looks. Okay, so that is the front. I still do think that the angle is a little bit off, but it is closer than before. So I will say that's a pass, and I'm just going to move on. Okay, so now one set is, well, actually it's sort of done. I do need to intersect it against this one, so let's go ahead and do that first. So I'm going to intersect right here. Let's go ahead and delete the construction history, and I'm going to say hide unselected, and I'm going to trim these over here like that. Okay, so that looks good, and let's just go ahead and group all of these. Actually, I might untrim this one as well and retrim so that it's a little bit longer. So let's go ahead and extend this piece like that, and let's go ahead and trim. I'm gonna trim over here, trim over here. Why are there multiple? Oh, okay. So let me, well, you don't really need to delete it, but let's just do it for cleanliness. And I'm going to go ahead and trim this one as well. Okay, so now let's go ahead and group all these, and I think I'm ready to put them all in line. Actually, you know what? Let's extend this one as well. So I'm just going to untrim this piece over here like this, and I'm going to extend this one. I'm going to extend the carbon surface over here. I'm going to trim, and I think it's ready. So let's go ahead and I'm going to see, well, first of all, let's save first. I'm going to see if I can grab everything. So I'm going to say pick chain tool. I'm going to say position. Oh, looks like that's actually grabbing everything. That's not good. Okay. So if that's the case, let me just grab it as a surface with wireframe. I'm going to isolate these ones like this. And I'm going to say delete construction history over here. And I'm just going to pick them as object. I'm going to group. I'm just going to make sure that it didn't grab anything else extra. Okay, so I think that's good. Okay, now I do need to make sure that they are at the right height. So what I'm going to do is, well, actually, let's do this. So in order to make sure that they're at the right height, I'm going to grab this surface over here. I'm going to project it from Y, including this one and this one. Like, oops. That one needs to be over here like that. And now I'm going to just grab this piece over here. The proportions should be the same, so I think this should work. So let's go ahead and okay, copy paste over here and paste one over here like this, and these ones, so let's go ahead and delete. So I delete those. These will look pretty good, and I should be doing the same thing over here. So let's go ahead and grab these. Well, actually only 3 of them. I'm gonna just copy and paste. And for these ones, I'm just gonna stick it right here and just call it done. Now, I probably do have to make sure that the location is good. So let's go ahead and I'm gonna say invisible over here, and these ones over here, I'm going to delete. Okay, so that looks good. And let's just check the proportions over here. I do feel like these 3 should be a little bit more forward. So let's pull them out a little bit. Now, when I'm pulling these out, I'm going to just slide them along. So I'm just going to move the pivot here. Actually, let's move, well, to move the pivot here, and I'm just going to drag. Oh, does it work? Oh, that doesn't work. Okay, so if that's the case, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to duplicate this edge over here, and I'm going to just drag it along that edge. So I'm just going to move the pivot here like this, and I'm just going to drag it right like that. And let's just to make sure that the location is good. I think the proportion wise, I think the distance is better. Although it's, I think it's actually getting dangerously close to this wall. So I might move them a little bit to the side like that. Okay, so there's still no collision, so that's good. And I think that's a little bit better than before. And I might pull it a little bit more forward. So what you can do is, since we have a curve, we can just do this, move the pivot to here and just drag it out. Okay, so that looks pretty good. And now let's go ahead and I think that's done. Okay, so unfortunately I did have to make the modification. However, it is a little bit closer to, I guess, reality. So let's go ahead and try to block this, all these surfaces in, so that this is actually enclosed. So first thing first, I am going to drag a surface down over here. So let's first. So I'm just going to grab a curve over here like this. I'm just going to move it straight down, and I'm going to just use the stretch tool to give it a little bit of angle over here. And let's go ahead and use a rail. Everything is going to be parallel. So let's grab explicit control off, turn that off. Now I do have a lot of cleanup to do because some of the surfaces over here is a little bit off, but right now I'm just trying to get the proportions right, everything so that everything's somewhat in place. Okay, so I think this one is supposed to stick right here from what I can see. So I would say I think I can just leave it like this. And after that, however, I do actually, you know what? This surface, I think the side surface, this angle would be good. But this one, actually, if you see this right here, there's a little bit of slope. And you'll see that this is coming down here. And I do think that there is a little bit of gap. So maybe I'll put that in. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to extend this piece back up over here like that, so that we can just give it a little flat. And let's just check how wide this is. So looks like it's about 1 mil. Let's just make it a even 1 mil. So I'm going to just pull it. Well, actually, I don't know if it's because of the angle, I don't know if it's going to pull it in the right. Okay, so let's just undo, and I'm just going to minus 0.0428. Because of the angle, it's not exact, but well, I would say this is good enough. Okay, so now let's go ahead and, well, I do need a point of reference, so I'm going to just grab this one. I'm going to just project it in Y so that we can just snap it right here. So let's grab all these 4 over here. And I'm going to snap the curve, or snap the pivot over here. Wrong place. I'm just going to snap it over here. And I'm going to move everything here. So that... Oh, actually, that was a mistake. So I'm just going to leave it here. It looks like I can probably just create a surface from that point. Okay, so let's go ahead. And I'm going to snap a curve over here like this. And I'm just going to drag it along this edge. And let's just see if that is good. So I'm just going to do a rail. It's going to be 1 and 1. It's going to be parallel. I do think that I need to make this a little bit longer. So let's make it very long. And looks like the intersection point is not that great. So... however, that said, however, I do think that I need to pull this up. So let's go ahead and do that first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that this, well, let's take a look. this is supposed to end up right here. If you can see this, this is reflective part of the surface. So what I'm going to do is, let's just check to see. I'm guessing this is ending up right here. I'm just going to snap it at this point. So I'm just going to intersect over here. And let me just snap it. Whoops. I don't want any of those. Just going to snap it right here. And yeah, that looks good. And now, it does look like there's a little bit of gap. So I'm going to leave that. And I am going to create a surface. Well, let's move this one over here. So I'm just going to snap it here like this. And I am going to move this down a little bit like that so that we can create a little gap here. And it also creates this intersection right here. I think the location is actually not that bad. However, I think I'm going to give it a little bit more angle on this one. So I'm just going to grab this curve over here. I'm just going to pull it forward like this. So the intersection is good. And let's just check it against a couple of images. Okay, so I'm starting to think. I think the location of this might be a little bit off. Because if you see right here, it's the distance between this intersection is not that great. So I would think that this probably needs to move up quite a bit. And I also think that the angle of this surface over here also needs to be modified. Actually, no, I take that back. I would say this is probably the maximum that I can do this. And I think that means, oh, actually, you know what? Okay, so this is what I actually need to do. If you look at this over here, you'll see that there's not a lot of distance between this one, this intersection, and this piece over here, which means I actually need to drag this down. Whoa. I'm going to move the pivot here like this. And I probably actually have to do this. Now, the only problem is you'll see that the spacing needs to be a little bit better. So I guess that would mean I probably need to scale the whole thing. Like that. Until this one is close to the top. And that's a little bit better. Although this feels totally weird for some reason. Okay, so it's pretty close to the top. I think the spacing is not too bad. And now that's a little bit closer to what I need. So I think everything is pretty good. Yeah, that's not too bad. Just gonna check to make sure everything's good proportion wise. Now I wish I could see what's going on inside, but I guess it's all in the shadow, so that's kind of invisible. But as far as just the proportion wise, I think it's pretty good. So now the only thing I think I need to do is I'm going to drag this a little bit rearward in car. So let's go ahead and duplicate this edge, and I'm just going to click on all of these over here, and I'm going to move the pivot here like this, and I'm just going to drag it inboard, or I guess rearward, so that it's not sticking out too much. Actually, let's pull it back out. I'm just going to check the proportion. Well, according to this one, this needs to come out a little bit more. I would say that's pretty close because there is supposed to be very little distance between this one and this one. Although, and I think I actually might rotate them too. So I'm just, well, actually, you know what? Rotating might be a little bit dangerous just because if I rotate this, that's going to change the angle like that. So maybe I'll just leave it like this for now. I mean, that looks pretty close. So maybe, yeah, I think that's it. And I do think, well, actually, let's check. Well, in this one, there seems to be quite a lot of spacing between them. I would say it's about one. Actually, I would say that's actually not that bad. I do think that there's a little bit more spacing between these horizontally. However, looking at this image over here, I do think that I probably need to push this rearward a little bit, like that, to give it a little more gap. And I am going to shift it a little bit to, oh no, I don't want to do that because right now it's crashing over here. And I'll probably have to modify the angle of this surface over here because right now it's basically running into it. I do think that it's very close though. So I would say that I'm probably going to just make this parallel instead of giving it a draft. So let's do this. I'm just going to do a draft. It's going to be just in X. So that should give this a little bit more room. And I think that's good. Now, to be honest, in a complex housing, headlamp housing such as this one, it's really hard to figure out what the draft is, and I'm pretty sure there are like sliders and a lot of sliders to make sure that you can actually come out of the tool. So I'm not going to attempt to figure out it myself. I am not an engineer. I'm just a mauler, so I'm just going to keep it that way. However, it looks like it is a lot closer in proportion to what I needed. However, I am going to drag this up just a little bit more so that it's a little bit closer. I think this one is good. And I am going to pull this one a little bit rearward. Like that. Oh, actually, history is done. So let's go ahead and use a curve. So I'm just going to duplicate a curve like this, and I'm just going to align this one over here like that, and looks like it's a 2 degrees. So I'm going to turn blending on, extra severe is on 1, and that's good. Okay, so that's more like it. I think the spacing here is good. I think everything proportion wise much better than before. All right. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. All right, so I think that's settled. We still have a lot of closures. They're open spacing. Surfaces are sticking out everywhere, so there's still a lot of cleanup to do. But overall, I'm actually not unhappy with how it's turned out. And it has definitely added a lot more detail to the car. So pretty happy with that. Okay, so that is it for part 110. We will continue in the next tutorial, and thank you guys for watching.